Welcome to the Let's Talk Data podcast series presented by SAP.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Let's Talk Data podcast. This is Series 3, so we had two other Series 1 and 2, but I love this Series 3. In this series, we have 4 episodes that are really focused on the combination of artificial intelligence and machine learning with information management with a product from SAP called SAP Data Intelligence. So today's episode is really going to be a wonderful discussion. We have 3 experts here who are all experts in different areas. So what we want to do today is we really want to talk about who's really using the tool, because the tool is a lot, right? We're combining, as we said, enterprise, artificial intelligence, machine learning. So we've taken our Leonardo machine learning framework, and then we also have all of our very rich data hub capabilities on premise for data orchestration, metadata management, data cataloging. We've brought these together and we have them available in the cloud, and we've had some other podcasts, maybe you've checked them out, some on the role and why now. Today we're really going to be focused on who's going to be using the solution. So it's a solution that delivers data-driven innovation and intelligence across the enterprise. And like we said before, it kind of unifies AI and intelligent information management. And so to really talk about who's going to use this in the different roles, we really need to bring in different people to talk about this. So we have our data scientist here, Punta. She's here with us today. She told us it's a lot of things going on. She's getting her coffee. She's getting pumped up now. I think she's in California today. Puntas, where are you today?
Hi, yes, San Francisco.
Okay, she's in sunny San Francisco, so life is good for her. So thank you for joining us. So she's going to be giving us some
Thanks for
insight
having me.
from a data scientist perspective, and she's one of our product managers as well. And so she's in California, and then on the other side of the pond, we have Christian, who's one of our product managers. Christian, where are you today? Are you at the office or at home, or where are you right now?
So I'm in the office in cloudy Waldorf.
Oh, okay. Cloudy. So he's in cloudy Waldorf. All right. So I think Puntas has got the better location. I'm located right between the two of them in Texas. And then we have Silvio, who focuses a lot with customers in our go-to-market. He's normally in Rome, but I never know where he is. He's always on a plane. So Silvio, where are you today?
No, I am in Rome today, in sunny Rome.
Oh, sunny Rome. All right, Christian.
Yeah.
So you got the short end of the stick. So first of all, let me tell all of you, I'm really happy that you're all here. And when we really think about the convergence of bringing together, data scientists and trying to do things in a scalable way, and also trying to bring this with our governance and data management capabilities, I really just want to talk. I want to start with you, Puntas, and talk about, as a data scientist, first I want you to talk about what SAP Data Intelligence kind of means to you, why you're involved with the product, why do you think it's important, if you would start with that. And then I'd like for you to talk a little bit about how do you think a data scientist would use this product, because as you very well know, SAP shops, we normally don't have the data scientist in the SAP team. So why would a data scientist even be interested in using this product?
Yes, so I'm involved because of my background and my experience with data science. And after many years of experience as working as a data scientist, I felt like I want to be part of a role that actually I can realize, or I can incorporate my vision into a product. And that is how I got involved in data hub, data intelligence, and I wanted to help building a product that actually helps other data scientists, bringing in the vision of a data scientist. I really like this product that we have built because it tried to answer 3 needs that the data scientists had. 3 biggest ones. One of those was that our customers, our data scientists, they had the problems of bringing their contextual data with the unstructured or semi-structured data. Now, we all know that SAP works with big enterprises, and we have about 40 years of experience working with the customers, 20 years in memory data management. And we have, customers that they have legacy databases, we have data warehouses, and so on. And so our customers have very valuable data. And at the same time, we are at the era that people talk about, the social media data, the streaming sensors data. And the biggest problem for them was that, it is very difficult for us to bring all these data together. And if you don't bring all your data together, you can't make sense of them. So that was one of the biggest things. And that is one of the things that we're really trying to tackle with our new solution. Our data scientists had no problem developing POCs, so it's easy just to open your Jupyter notebook and, have a CSV file, run, one line of Python code and, use, for instance, scikit-learn and do some training on your data, even like 100 rows, and get some good result. But when it comes to operationalization and productization, it is not the same, because now you're dealing with real data, which is never nice and clean as you imagined. You're bringing different types of data, so it is not really easy to move from the POC to a product. And we felt that pain, and that is why we're trying to make that transition as easy as possible. And also, as a data scientist, I always struggled with the technology that I was using. We have, all the data scientists, they have a preferred language that they are very happy using, and they do not like to, learn something new, and it's really not necessary. If I am using Python and it has all the libraries that I need, or if I'm using R and it has all the libraries that I need, and it does the job for me, I really don't want to waste time and go learn something else, which, is not as good as these languages that I'm using. So I really wanted a platform that allows me to use my knowledge and at the same time, take advantage of other capabilities that I'm not really an expert in. For instance, like data engineering jobs, such as making the connections, so on and so forth. So the other, great point about this product is that it gives you the flexibility to use the open source or your preferred language the same way you can use SAP technologies. So that is really great.
Oh, that's a great summary. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Those are some wonderful points that you've made. So Christian, I don't know, do you have anything to add from that? But my understanding is you're more kind of from the data management perspective, and when we were designing data intelligence, we had several roles in mind. The data scientist is one, and I think Punses has perfectly articulated kind of what it can do for them. What are other roles? And tell us a little bit about your background as well. Are you what kind of brings you to data intelligence?
Yes, thank you. So basically, I also have a machine learning background,
Okay.
as I'm a mathematician, but and I also felt the pain as I was a former data science consultant before joining the product management team of data intelligence. I also felt the pain of really trying to integrate the models that you have built, where you spent months of building them, so to integrate the respective models into the daily business processes. So it was always pain that I have felt as a data science consultant, and this is also where data intelligence can play an important role. So apart from the data science, from the role of a data scientist, on which Puntes has already elaborated on, I also see in general developers, data stewards, IT administrators, and first and foremost, of course, the DevOps teams. So just think of, for instance, when we take a look at the data science DevOps teams, for instance, they could really take care of embedding the models into an entire end-to-end workflow. Such a workflow could, for instance, start with accessing the respective data sources, taking care of metadata management, also of data governance in general. So you can also maybe first run some sanity data quality checks, for instance, with data intelligence in order to take a first look into the data structure that you are considering with the data sets that you have in mind. You can even also deploy the respective machine learning scenario by implementing a respective prediction service or the respective inference part, and finally integrating the results into the business processes, which basically has most of the pain available, I would say, also according to my experience. So last but not least, the DevOps teams can really focus on setting up such a dynamic lifecycle management for machine learning related scenarios. And I think this is really, I would say, the aspect where data intelligence can definitely add value to our customers.
All right, so I'm really intimidated now, Christian. So you're a mathematician and a data scientist consultant, and you guys are kind of scaring me with how smart y'all are. This is a little intimidating. So we talked some about DevOps using this. What about the role of data engineers or data ops? Some people have been telling me that this really fits in with data ops. I don't know, Christian or Silvio, if you have a perspective on that.
Yes, exactly. So I would say they can perfectly work together or collaborate across the entire tool, because this tool covers also several areas, as for instance the metadata governance part, also kind of data engineering part, because there is also, let's say, pipelines application in the tool where you can build data-driven flows. You can also build small data-driven applications, and you can also engineer, I would say, also data models, for instance. And so I would say it's a perfect platform to really bring together all the different stakeholders.
Silvio, do you have anything to add to that? And Silvio, you're also the one working in the customers as well, right?
Yeah, my background is mostly on the enterprise architecture side, so that's where I come from. So implementation of large projects in big enterprise customers. That's what I was doing before taking ownership of solution management for Data Hub and the intelligence. And indeed, I mean, I perfectly agree with the vision that Christian set about what the tool enables. So if you embrace the data intelligence philosophy, of course, you can streamline the operationalization of those complex data science projects and have all the roles work together. And I think that that's probably the main pain that customers are suffering today, because if I think of the reality I see at most of our customers today, in most cases, the truth is that those roles that Pontus and Christian have described, they don't really work together yet. And that's the main issue, because in many cases I've seen customers who have already put in place, for example, a very good data science team with very smart mathematicians and PhDs elaborating models that are very promising, that could actually have a significant impact on the business. For example, they promise very smart changes and automation and intelligence applied to critical business processes. And that's why data science looks so attractive, let's say, to most of our customers, even in traditional industries. I mean, you don't have to be Google to start embracing data science. But then the problem is that in most cases, those teams, they remain in their ivory tower. So they develop those models in let's say, using test data, using dummy data sometimes. So they are able to show the concepts, but then when it comes to operationalizing what they've done, that's where they should interact with the chief data officer, with the compliance office, with the data integration teams. And most of the times they have to work together with different data integration teams for each different technology, for each different kind of data, for each different data set, and so on. And that's where the complexity becomes overwhelming and they get stuck, basically. And that's why 8.5 initiatives for data science out of 10 fail to make it to production. And that's exactly the kind of pain that we are trying to solve with data intelligence. So the objective is not to reinvent data science, not to reinvent everything which is already out there, but just to enable all the data science which has already been done and tested to actually be operationalized for real and become reality and start delivering value in the end.
So given that, Silvio, I think that's a really good summary, and it's really good that you're from the enterprise architecture slide, right? Because we have these teams that are in different groups. I think that a lot of times the data scientists might be in an LOB group, and then we have the data architects, data ops, DevOps actually in the IT group. So Pontus, you talked a little earlier about, what's in it for the data scientist and how they'll be able to use it and how it'll help them be able to use the tools they love and still be able to integrate with this tool. But why would a data scientist care about data orchestration and data integration? You said earlier that they like to use R and Python, and you have the tools that you love and you want to continue to use those, right? So
Yes.
I guess they care about data orchestration and integration if they want to see something they've done actually make it to production. Why else would they care? What's your perspective on that?
Yes, that is a great question, Ginger. Well, data integration is very important because you need to bring different data sources, and because we're dealing with big data here, we can't move the data, all the times, and this is not a good idea. So basically what you can do is you can connect to the data source that you have, push down the execution to where the data resides, and then bring the piece of the data that you need in the memory, and then, do everything else you need to do with it. You don't need to move terabytes of data because you want to make a join, right? It doesn't make sense anymore. So the data integration, all those connections, they're all very important. But then think about the projects that you're developing nowadays, right? So for instance, you want to, for instance, we're talking about some predictive maintenance. Some IoT story that there are different types of data that you have to process, right? So for instance, you have some, heat map images that you want to get, and you want to run some, you want to extract some features from those images, and you want to do some classification. And at the same time, you have your machineries, and you want to get the sensor data from them, and you want to run some, some time series analysis on top of them. But these two are not related. You don't need to finish one job in order to trigger the other job. So these two can happen in parallel. That's why the orchestration is very important here, because, for instance, you can start running these two in parallel, get the result back, merge the result. Then as soon as these two finish, you can trigger the other job. And in the past, maybe it was possible to go and, wait until one job finishes and see if you got the result that you wanted, and then start the other trigger manually. But it doesn't make sense, in the automation nowadays anymore. You really can't have somebody there waiting for the result coming in. So you need your system to take care of that, and you do not want to use a separate platform to do that for you. I want one single platform, the same platform that I developed on, that I configured on, that I designed my system on, to take care of the orchestration, scheduling, monitoring, and all that. And I'm very proud to say that data intelligence has that capability.
That reminds me, I was at, I think, Sylvia, you were there with me when we were working an event, SAP's Big Sapphire, back in May, and a large consumer products company came up, and the guy was telling me, I don't want to say the name of the company, but you would know them, you use them in your household all the time, but he was saying, yeah, we have data scientists, and we take all the time, we take our data, I think they pump it into a data lake, they get some extracts, they get it to them. But he says, after that, then what? So I think that kind of sums up, everything that I think y'all have been saying, because they didn't know, how do I get that data back into my live production SAP systems? How do I take advantage of what they did with it and get it so I can use it more than just a one-off, right? Sylvia, what were you going to say?
Yeah, exactly. So the challenge is, how do you actually operationalize those insights and make them actionable into a concrete business process, so that you start using them to build value for the company in the end, for the customers, for the employees, and so on? Because that requires a significant step, because starting from your prototype, you have to make sure that, for example, the data that you use to train your model has to be reliable enough to be usable in a real business process. You have to make sure that the data is clean, that everything is done under compliance, so that you're using the data in the right way without any breach. And so you have to make sure that you train your models without causing any bias. So you have to take care also of the ethics of the data that you pump into the models, and that's something new compared to the traditional deterministic kind of processing of analytics. So there's a certain number of aspects that you need to take care of. Also the timing, of course. So you need to manage the life cycle of when you retrain your model in order to update it and make sure that it's reliable enough so that you can run it continuously and not just for a few weeks, for example. Those concerns are concerns that if you try to approach them in a non-structured way, would require a lot of plumbing of different tools, a lot of open source technologies perhaps, a lot of hyperscaler technologies, but that's typically implying a complexity that can become a showstopper for most IT organizations. And that's what we tackled, I think, very efficiently with the intelligence, because we have one streamlined solution that takes care of, for example, collecting all the metadata, allowing the data scientists to understand the meaning of the semantics of the data, manage the life cycle of the models, and use all of their technologies across each and every kind of data sets from the enterprise, ensuring quality, ensuring compliance, and that's something which is currently very rare, actually, in the IT domain.
Mm-hmm. And Christian, you were talking earlier about DevOps, just to go double click a little bit on what Silvio was saying about lifecycle management. You were talking about how it's really important to have that for the machine learning models. Christian, what do we really mean when we say that lifecycle management for machine learning models? What's going to happen there with that?
Perfect. Thank you for the question. So yeah, basically one should keep in mind that if you train a model based on, let's for instance, historical data, you have a model which is trained to this specific point in time, which means that let's just assume that let's say an event suddenly occurs due to climate change or whatever, then event that might occur. Then in this case, it can happen that the model quality of the model that you have previously trained dramatically decreases, which means that it doesn't really, let's say, reflect the reality in which you are located at this point in time. So this means one should, in order to really take care of lifecycle management for machine learning models, one should be aware of, at least taking a look at the model quality, in best case dynamically, such that in best case you then get a message, hey, your model quality is decreasing, and goes beyond a certain threshold that you have previously defined. And in this case, you can take care of the model. You can maybe retrain it, and in worst case, you have to do everything from scratch, depending on the data structure that you have now in mind, and so on. So, but in general, one should really have trackability of the respective models in order to really take care that the model quality does not decrease that much, and it will decrease over time. So this is just natural, I would say. And this is where the essence of a good lifecycle management is, because this lifecycle management does not only include, I take care of the machine learning models that I've previously trained. It also includes what are the data management processes that run in the background. How is my data quality over time? I need to maybe do some master data management or metadata management before, and so on. So this does really include much more than just taking a look at the models, and to have everything there in one place, to have everything in mind, to really be able to have an overview about every component that plays an important role. I think one would really need to set up such a lifecycle management, and data intelligence is exactly aimed for supporting and helping in setting up such a lifecycle.
So I think you're saying that the DevOps people that are managing all the other things about our data, what you talked about, metadata management, our data quality over time, that the machine learning would really become another artifact that would have to be managed as well. Is that correct? And the DevOps people would be doing that. Did I understand that correctly, Christian, or not?
Exactly. So the related artifacts. For machine learning. Of course, this includes the data sets that are included, and this, of course, also includes the models that you have trained, and also maybe the comparison between different models. Maybe you have used different algorithms in order to train the models. Maybe you have also used different features. So also take care of the features that are that you have identified, and to take care of the correlations between the attributes that you have in the data sets and so on. So not really only taking care of, let's say, only taking care of the models, but also taking care of all the steps that have at the end of the day led to this model. And I think this is also pretty important, apart from all the data management things that play an important role.
Yeah, because whenever we're using this, if we just go in a second a little bit further into what we were talking about with all the other data management capabilities, and we were talking earlier about, we'll have data ops using this tool, we'll have DevOps using this tool, we'll have data scientists using this tool, maybe data architects using this tool. If I have scenarios where I'm not using machine learning heavily, I could still use SAP Data Intelligence, and I would still have my data ops and devs team there, and they could still, like Puntas was talking earlier about the freedom to use the tool that you love. You can still use that, right? Or is machine learning and data science a prerequisite for this? Does that role have to be included?
No, of course not. Machine learning and data science, of course, remains an important use case for data intelligence, but it's not bound to that. You can, of course, use data intelligence also for other use cases that are not directly machine learning related, yes.
Okay. So if we look at the different roles of kind of our vision, we have our data ops, we have the DevOps, we have the data architects that will all be involved from the management of their type of data. And then, are there any other major roles that are involved in this? Like, I don't think we're really going to have a business user on this tool, right? Or what happens with the data preparation? Who's kind of doing those types of things? Y'all were talking about making sure the data is good, right, in order before I use it for some process. Who's the person that we see using that within SAP Data Intelligence? Christian, you want to start with that?
So I think, I think one can, of course, use also SAP Data Intelligence in order to prepare the data, in order to really take care of the data pre-processing, because, as already said, it comes with integrated Jupyter notebooks, and when you are familiar with coding Python, and then you can, of course, run some data analysis, run some data preparation, run the entire parts completely in Python, and you can easily integrate this and orchestrate this data pre-processing part in data intelligence by using data-driven pipelines. You can even use the data preparation layer within SAP Data Intelligence. So SAP Data Intelligence also comes with an own data preparation layer, which is also there in order to do some data preparation before. So removing columns, trimming records, for instance, also replacing records where maybe a typo is in, and so on. So we have several opportunities to prepare data within data intelligence.
Okay. There's just so much, you guys. Sometimes I almost get overwhelmed with everything that's possible, right, with this new solution that we have. And even in the combination of the types of roles that we have, of bringing all these people together, right? Because as you guys have alluded to, sometimes they actually sit in different parts of the organization. So I guess what would be, Puntas, we haven't heard from you in a while. So I'm really starting to think about how would we really recommend people that are interested to get started in bringing these roles together. I mean, because the reality is, as Silvio said, that these people are in different parts of the organization and they would be doing different things within the same solution. And what's nice is we provide a platform that can kind of bring everyone together. And for the first time. So where do we kind of start to figure this out? So if I'm kind of interested in this, like let's say the customer that came up to us at the event, right? He came up to us, he's already got a data scientist working on something, right? He's part of the SAP shop. He's already got, data architects working on other tools, and now we can bring them together. Do we start with the business use case of where we want to do this? Will we bring all these, because we can't bring all these people into a room and say, hey, we have this new great solution, you need to use it. That's obviously not going to work. I'd like to go around and get all your recommendations on how would we really go about taking this and really using this maybe in a first POC and how we bring this people together. Do we start with the technology? Do we start with the business case? Do we start somewhere in the middle? Puntas, what do you think?
I think it should all happen organically, right? It's not that we say, okay, so in this project, we need all these 3 people. Let you do this, you do that. And so I think the way it should be is that that in a data science project, we usually start with some experiments. But when it comes to productization, we need the data engineer to make all that connection, connect to my AWS system, connect to my, HANA system, connect to, my ERP system. Then the data engineer needs to come in. Then, I need to do some data prep, maybe somebody who has more knowledge about different technologies has to come in. And then after I am happy with everything I have developed and I built the models that I wanted, then I need the DevOps guys to take over and, to take over of the executions and the monitoring, scheduling aspect of it. So I think the best way of approaching this is, and of course you need an architect, right, who knows the landscape, who knows, that all the technology that the company owns or the pieces that you need in this particular project. And I think it all starts with an experiment that see if things work and if, the business question is there, if I can get some answer to that business question and then bring in people as needed.
Okay. Sylvia, what do you think about that?
In my experience, I think the best start is always discussing the business question first, to go back to what Princess was saying. So what I typically advise to the customers I meet is, guys, we'd better get 3 different teams or 3 different kinds of people in the same room and have a half day of discussion altogether. So it's very important to have the functional people in the room. So the LOB owner or the process owner, the people who are responsible for the business processes, because if you start bottom up from the technology, it's very easy to get lost in initiatives that do not deliver any value. Whereas if you start top down, identifying first of all a use case and a business process where you know that the business has pains or has opportunities, actually, for example, to disrupt the competition or to bring a new kind of service to the markets, or to do something nice for the company and for its customers, then let's start discussing first of all the process. And as you know, Ginger, at SAP, we have business processes in our DNA. So contrary to most of the other technology players, we are very at ease with starting a discussion from, let's talk about the business process first. And then once the process is clear, and once everybody in the room has an idea of what the process currently is, what we would like to get it to, then, for example, the data scientist can start suggesting ideas. Hey, guys, we could apply this kind of intelligence to this use case, and we could actually achieve something that the functional people maybe haven't even thought. And then at that point, the IT guys who are also in the room will be the ones saying, okay, we would need this and this kind of data, and this is where we can retrieve it. So that's the bit of information that typically is missed by most of the data scientists. So that's why it's important to have the 3 rows in the same room to start the conversation from the business process, and then from there do sorts of a, let's say, guided design thinking kind of session to understand how we could turn the business process around using the art of the possible. And in the end, data intelligence is conceived to be the enabling technology that allows data scientists and IT and data engineers to, let's say, fulfill the promise that they made to the business owners in those kind of workshops. But in my experience, starting from setting up, first of all, a discovery workshop, as we call it, with those 3 kind of actors in the same room, and a whiteboard to be able to discuss and also imagine new kind of solutions, that's typically the best start.
I was talking to someone else the other day, and they were saying that one way to talk with the business would be to say, if I could predict X for you, and they could fill in what the X is, and I got it right, what would that mean to your business? To the process. Or if I were to predict X and you fill in the X and I got it wrong, what would it cost your business? I thought that was an interesting way to start to think about, if I wanted to get started how would I know which business process to go to? Like you said, Sylvia, looking at your pain points, if I could predict maybe in some situations, the weather and I got it right, what it would be, or if I could predict something about your sales and I got it wrong.
It's a good way to summarize what we typically call a business outcome driven data strategy. That's what we are strongly advising our customers to adopt in these days, because as you know, in the past few years, when everybody was excited about technology disruptions, we've seen many times that enterprises were, for example, embracing new technologies just because they were on the hype, and I don't know, they were feeling that everybody else was doing big data, so guys, we have to do big data as well, because otherwise we out of the competition. And then they were establishing a team where they were setting up a big data lake, and then suddenly they had a very nice technology that was looking for problems to solve, and at that stage you realize that probably that kind of bottom-up technology-oriented approach is not really the best one to make sure that you focus on the things that do matter to the enterprise. So that's why every data strategy must be business outcome driven. So first of all, as I said, you have to have a clear picture of what's the business process that you want to change, you want to reimagine, you want to disrupt. And then from there, you derive which are the data assets, which are the intelligent algorithms that you can apply in order to achieve the objective. And of course, it's an iterative process, because there must be an exchange there, because in many cases, if you just stick with the business people, they might not even be able to imagine the art of the possible. So that's why it's important to have that conversation ongoing. Start from the business, but then engage the data scientists to actually suggest what can be done, because otherwise you have the risk of being too much on the other side, where you just stay too conservative and you miss opportunities which are enabled by technology. But definitely you have to first ask that question. So what am I going to gain if we implement this prototype, for example? So how am I going to change the business? What the impact will be, and is it worth it? Is it too risky, for example? How long will it take in terms of implementation time? Like, will it be too long? So those are all very sensible questions that should always be asked at the initial workshop.
And Christian, what is your view of that from your role as the product manager of these all the different roles that can use this, from the data preparation to the data catalog to the data architects to the data scientists? What's your recommendation to bring them together? Kind of combine what Silvio and Puntas were saying, where we talk with the business, we start with an experiment, or what is your thought?
So basically, there's not much more to add from my side to what Pontus and Silvio have already said. So I think one should also, let's say, defer the approach depending on the person one is talking to. So when we talk to a data scientist, of course, then it's for sure a good approach to maybe first talk about the technologies that one can integrate, or to maybe to also talk about the features that can be integrated. For instance, then you can say, we have an integrated Jupyter notebook, we have integrated Jupyter App environment, and it can also communicate with other applications in data intelligence. And then we can also connect to the source systems, and you do not need to extract CSV files from your systems and so on. So I think this could be a good starting point also for to talk to data scientists. But when you talk to other stakeholders, then of course, just defining a use case and to maybe start with such a use case and to, let's say, come to a point where you can say, I can add value to your business, is of course also a good recommendation, I would say. So I would maybe adapt the approach depending on the person that I'm talking to. It's in fact a combination of what Pontus and Silvio have already said.
Right. Okay, well, I think in this discussion that we've had, we've really had a good discussion on the kinds of people, how those are going to be brought together, kind of the reality that they're in different parts of the organization, but we have to bring everyone together around a specific solution that we want to solve. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that people are comfortable with the tool and that they know that they can bring in other tools that they use as well. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add?
Yeah, thank you, Ginger. I think this was a great conversation, and also to hear Silvio and Christian's point of view. Thanks a lot.
So if you want to learn more, you can visit us at sap.com/data intelligence. We also have a blog that a colleague wrote on. It's called The Importance to Have Everyone on the Same Page. So that's a pretty good blog. It's out there on Data Science Central. We'll provide the link to that. And I want to thank everybody for joining today, and we hope that we'll see you on another podcast in this series. Thanks all. Bye.